Hi, my name's Zoe from Oodles of Craft, and today I'm going to show you how to make these beautiful gift tags using your Cricut machine, perfect for the gifting season. In today's tutorial I'm going to use my Explore 3. I'm also going to be using Design Space, which I have placed on my screen up here. I'm going to use my blue card mat, my guillotine, but you could use scissors. I've got two different types of cardstock. These are from Cricut.com. There is the jewel sampler and the bejeweled sampler. I've also got Pritt Stick, but any type of glue or glue dots or sticky pads would do for this job. And I'm going to use a piece of ribbon and my brayer to make sure my card is adhered to the mat. Let's get started. This is Cricut Design Space. Design Space is the free software used with Cricut Smart Cutting machines. There are three distinct areas that you need to note in Design Space. There's your home page, your canvas, and your mats. This is the home page. As you can see, there are lots of inspiring projects and images for you to use in your design process. Today, we are going to start on the canvas page and design our own gift tag. One thing to note is in the top right corner here, I have my Design Space set to look for my Explore 3 when it comes to cutting. You need to make sure that you have selected the correct machine before you carry on. When ready, click on New Project, the green button in the top right corner. This is the canvas, and again there are three distinct areas to make note of. On the left hand side are all the things that you can add to your project. So it might be an existing project that's been designed. It might be that you're designing your own using shapes, images, text. There are pre-existing phrases and editable images. You could upload your own designs from elsewhere, and there is a beautiful monogram feature too. Across the top is where you will edit your designs. This will become clearer when we get designing in a moment. But just make note, this is where you change colours, sizes, align things in a different manner, and so on. And then down the right hand side we have our layers panel. The layers panel shows us everything that we add to the canvas, and again we can use this to edit our designs. At the bottom of the layers panel there are some actions that we can take in order to finish our designs before cutting. Today I'm going to show you some of the features on Cricut Design Space so that you can create gorgeous gift tags this season. So I'm going to start by using shapes. These are the free shapes that are available within Design Space. As you can see, there's plenty for us to try, and there's actually some lovely gift tag shaped designs here. I'm going to use this one today. Once I've clicked on it, it will appear on my mat. When designing, I like to make the shape as big as possible on my screen. It helps me to figure out where I would like to position things. So I'm going to move my cursor to the corner of the shape, and you can see that it turns into a double-headed black arrow. I am going to click and drag the shape out to make it larger for me when designing. Now, because my gift tag is going to have a piece of ribbon going through it, I need to create a hole. So I'm going to go back to shapes, and this time I'm going to select the circle. When this is added to the canvas, I'm going to resize it as I did before, clicking on the double-headed arrow to make it a more suitable size for my project. Now, in order for you to see this, I am going to change the colour. So if you have a look upon our editing bar at the top, at the moment it is grey. I'm just going to change it to something a little bit brighter for you to be able to see what I'm doing. Now I'm going to move this shape roughly to where I want it, but then I'll use the design tools that are here to help me make that better. So I'm going to select all, or click and drag over each of my images. and I'm going to move along to align. What I would like it to do is center it horizontally so that the hole is directly in the middle of my gift tag. And it just moved ever so slightly then. Now while these two shapes are selected, you can see over in my layers panel, I've got the gift tag shape and I have my circle. What I would like to do is make my circle a complete hole. So I'm going to go down to the bottom of my layers panel here, and one of the actions we have available to us is slice. Slice is just like a biscuit cutter. If you have two layers, you can slice them out of each other. Now, as you can see on the layers panel, it has changed my layers. So I now have one slice result, which is the gift tag with the hole in it. I have the hole itself that was cut out, and I have the kind of shape that I used to cut it in the first place. So if I move these out of the way, you can see those three different layers separately on my screen. Now I don't need the holes, so I'm just going to click on them and hit delete, or I could click on it and on my layers panel a delete option comes up over here. Either way, I just want to be left with my slice result. So I now have the front of my gift tag, and I would like the back of my gift tag to be identical because I'm having two layers. In this case, I need to duplicate the shape. So I've selected the layer I would like to duplicate, and then over in the layers panel, you can see this plus symbol here. That is our duplicate button. So when I click on duplicate, I will end up with an identical version of what I had. So for this project, I'm going to make this green. The green cardstock I have is easy to write on. So I'm going to put that at the back. And then this design at the front is going to be the kind of pink sparkly paper. So I'll just change that to something that resembles roughly what it is I'm going to create. So I'd now like to cut out a design from the front of my gift tag so that I can see the green paper underneath. So I'm going to go to Images, and for this project I'm going to find a snowflake. Now, as you can see, there are 5,261 snowflakes I could choose from. So what I would suggest you do, as you move down, click on ones you like the look of, and they will appear at the bottom of your screen, and they kind of line themselves up there. Because there's nothing worse than thinking, oh, I quite like that one further up, and having to go back to it later. So just click on a few that you like the look of. I would like to keep it fairly chunky because I'd like to see a bigger area of the green cardstock underneath. So I'm avoiding the ones with thin lines, and I'd also like it to look obviously like a snowflake. So let's just choose those as an example. So there they are at the bottom of my screen, and I'm going to click on the green button again, add to canvas. So those three snowflakes have created 3 extra layers on my canvas. I have the grey one, which I'll just resize so there's a bit of space for him. I also have this one. It's a little bit more intricate. And then this one with the holes on. Once you've got them on your canvas, you can then make a decision as to what you would like to cut. So I'll remove that one, and I will go for the grey one. I'm going to keep it fairly simple for today. Again, resize it to how you would like it to be with your gift tag. And then again, I'm going to, if I make it off center, you'll see more clearly. I'm going to click and drag over those 2 elements that I've got, or those 2 layers in my layers panel. I'm going to go to align like we did before at the top on the editing bar, and again I'm going to center horizontally. So it might be that you would like it further up, further down. You can always use your arrow keys on your device that you're using. So once you've got your design where you would like it, it could be that you'd added text, it might be that you've added an image. I'm going to select those 2 layers again, and once again I'm going to use slice. So down at the bottom of the layers panel, one of the actions that we can take is slice. It's exactly the same as we did for the whole, just remember you can only slice 2 layers in one go. And again, in my layers panel, I can now see that I've got my gift tag with a slice in it. I've got the piece that came out and then the piece that I used originally to create that shape. So I'm going to move that one and delete it. Move this one and delete it. And then if I sit this one on top, you can see what our gift tag will look like at the end. So I'm happy with that design. One thing I would like you to note is if you use text, so for example, if we used a letter which has a piece in the middle, what you need to make sure of if you are doing something along these lines is that you keep the piece that comes from the center, because you'll need to glue that down at the end, or you need to be careful about which font you choose. So if we go to fonts at the editing bar at the top, the default is Cricut Sans. What we need to look for is a stencil font. So in the search engine, I'm going to put stencil, and this will give me ideas for lettering that has a gap in the letters to make sure that it stays together. So just to show you what I mean, I'll go for this cursive one at the top. And our letter P now has sections in which the card can stay together. There will be no hole created at the end. So a stencil font is better when using cardstock, because you need, ideally, for that piece of card to remain intact, so that you're not worried about losing pieces from the middle like we had last time. So here we can see there's a gap and this will join. If I go back to the design we had, you can see that this piece of card is not attached to the exterior piece of card, so potentially we would lose this. So bear that in mind when you're creating your tag. I'm going to delete this because I'm happy with my snowflake. The final thing to do before making this is actually reduce it to the size I would like to cut. So I would like these 2 designs to be 10 centimeters tall. So in the editing bar at the top, I'm going to size, and I'm going to change this 15 to 10. That way both are still identical, but they're actually going to be 10 centimeters in height. Once ready, you can go to the green button in the top right, which says Make It. This will take us to our mats page. If you have one of the latest Cricut machines, Cricut Design Space will ask you whether or not you're using a mat to cut. So if you select without mat, it's because you're using one of the Cricut Smart materials. Or you would select on the mat, and that's because you're either using offcuts of Smart materials or any other type of material. You might be using the card mat, which is very specific to card making, or you might have multiple different ways. We're going to use the mat today because we're using cardstock, so I'm going to select on mat and click on confirm. One thing of note at this stage is if I needed more than one gift tag cutting, rather than copying and pasting on the canvas page, what I would like to do is tell it how many I need to create. So for example, I would like 5 of exactly the same. When I click on apply, Design Space will position those 5 gist tags as best as possible in the top left. This isn't set in stone and you could move things around if you needed to. You can also rotate them. What I find super useful that Design Space do, however, is with material size. At the moment we're selected for 30.5, but sometimes when using cardstock, my cardstock will only be A4 in size. If I click A4, you can see that the project automatically defaults to what it can fit onto that A4 space, so it moves it all for you. A fantastic feature. So I'm going to change this back to one project for today. And when I'm ready, I follow the green button again to click continue. Design Space then takes you through a series of steps. The first one is to choose which material you are cutting, because that will dictate how deep the blade cuts through your project. So in this case, there are some favourites of mine up here, but I'm going to go into Browse All Materials because the one I want today is not there. You can select from the various categories at the top, or you can scroll down to find what you would like. So in cardstock, today I'm going to select glitter cardstock, even though mine is more of a holographic. It's got roughly the same settings. So I've told it what I want to cut, and now it asks me to load the materials and the tools. The fine point blade should be in the machine, and then press the flashing Load Matte button. Let's take you to my machine to show you what that looks like. The first thing I'm going to do is trim my cardstock down to size slightly. I've now got 2 smaller pieces that are ready to apply to my light grip mat, which is the blue. So first of all, I'm going to take off the protective sheeting over the top. Make sure you place this somewhere clean and put it back on again once you've finished. I am then going to position my pink cardstock across the top, and if needed I would use my brayer to secure it in place. As you can see, my load button is flashing, so I'm going to position my mat underneath the 2 clips at the side and press load. The machine then checks that you have got the right blade in and enough material to continue. When it's ready, Design Space will intimate that you need to press go. So this is the flashing button on your machine. When it is finished, the button to unload will flash, and that's our first piece done. For the second piece, you do exactly the same. Position your cardstock in place. Use the brayer if your mat is getting less tacky over time to prolong its life. And then again, back on the machine, you need to tell it what layer you're cutting through. So this green one, again, is a medium cardstock. The light is flashing, ready for me to load. The machine will calibrate to make sure that the right blade is in, that there's enough materials in there. Once it's ready, it will prompt you to press go. So again, my button is flashing. To remove the gift tag from the mat, you bend the mat away from the actual cardstock itself to avoid the cardstock from curling. So make sure your table is clean. And you bend your design away. Do the same with both. And remove anything off your mat that is not needed and replace with your protective cover. The final job is to piece these bits together. I kept this bit to show you that you could use these on another project for a future time, so don't get rid of any offcuts because sometimes they're just as gorgeous as the actual main project. But today I'm doing the layered one, so I'm going to use my Pritt stick. Any glue would do, the tape glue, or you could use glue dots. I'm just going to carefully position some on the back of the cutout piece. When I layer that on top, I've got my gorgeous gift tag. The pink sparkly showing through the green would have looked amazing as well. I did it this way so that I could write easily onto this matte paper. Then all I do with my leftover ribbon, my offcuts that I have left in my stash, I'm just going to feed that ribbon through the hole. Take my pinchy fingers, grab those leftover bits, and there we have it. The last job is to attach your gift tag to your gift. So I'm going to feed this ribbon through this section. Then you could either tie in a bow, or I'm going to just do one big loop and tuck those ends through. And there you have it. One sparkly gift tag ready to gift. Have fun making yours. I'd just like to share a few more different tools with you that can help you with the design process. So I'm going to remove the project that we've got here. Obviously you would potentially save it and then you've got it for another time. So this time I'm going to talk you through a button up here on the editing bar called Offset. And this is really good for creating a border around your design. So let me show you what I mean by that. So first of all, I'm going to insert some text. I'm going to stick with the gift tag idea and put in my son's name. I'll make it bigger so you can see what I'm up to. Now this font isn't the most inspiring. I would like one that is more cursive and joins up for this particular project. So I'm going to go into font in the top left hand corner, and I'm going to go for one of the new fonts that's just come out. It's called Analog Script. So this one is a nice thick chunky design. I'm going to change the colour just so then you can see what I am about to talk through. So as you can see, there are some cut lines here, but this particular font is a kerned font, and so we don't need to worry about those cut lines. And if I show you by going to make it and say we're going on the mat, those cut lines have disappeared. So if you've chosen a kerned font on Cricut Design Space, those cut lines will disappear. So don't worry too much about them. So I'm going to use Evan's name, and then we're going to use the offset button up on the editing bar at the top here. So if I click on offset, you can see that I have the option now to change the bubble going around the outside. So I can have a rounded version or I can have more of an angular version. This particular font lends itself to a curved one, so I'm going to leave it like this. Now I would like a fairly consistent background without this gap in it. So actually I'm going to move this slider up and create a wider offset or a wider bubble around my gift tag. And when I'm happy with what I've got, I'll click on apply. So if you have a look in the layers panel now, you can see that I've got Evan's name and I have the offset result. They are two separate layers that we can cut and then glue together. Now bear in mind what I mentioned earlier about the stencil font. This isn't a stencil font, so this black piece here, or black at the moment, that will be loose when it's cut. So it doesn't matter for this project because I'm going to glue it in place, or I could potentially draw a line between these two to make it join and be a stencil font. But I'm not going to go to that extent today. Now because I want to add a piece of ribbon over here maybe, I am going to need to create a hole like we did before. Now this border might mean that my hole is a little bit too narrow, so let me show you another trick. I'll just move Evan out of the way. So I'm going to add a shape. I'm going to go for a circle because it fits the kind of circular nature of this gift tag. And I'm going to put that, I don't know, maybe about there. So I now have two shapes together. Now what I would like to do is to make that shape attached to this shape. So I'm going to select those two layers, the circle and the contour, or the offset, sorry. And I'm going to go down on my layers panel, down at the bottom, you'll see the word combine. Now there are lots of different ways to combine these two shapes together. I could weld the two shapes and that would become a permanent new shape, or I could unite the shapes, which essentially is the same as weld, but you get more editing options later down the line. So because I don't know whether that's quite the size I want it, I'm going to use unite today. And if you have a look at my screen, you will see that that now creates one shape ready for cutting. But within my layers panel, the circle is still there. And if I needed to, if I want it slightly bigger, I can still resize it, or I can make it smaller if I need to as well. So unite is excellent for giving you those editing options. So I'll go back to how it was before, and then I need to create my hole for the gift tag. So again, I'm going for a shape. I'll make this a different colour so you can see what I'm doing. This time I want it smaller for the ribbon to go through, and then I just want to see whether the name is affected by that. Now this is also a good thing to point out, because my name is now hiding underneath and I can't see where it is in relation to the offset. I'm going to use arrange. If I click on arrange, I'm now going to bring this name to the front so that I can see where it will end up when we're done. So that will give me a better idea. So what I would like to do is make this a little bit smaller. And I think that would work quite well. So again, I'm going to move the name out of the way. What I would like to do is slice that circle out of the offset result. So again, I'm going down into the bottom right, clicking on slice, and you can see in the layers panel we've got our slice results again. So here is my gift tag, here is the yellow circle that we cut, and here's the piece that's being cut out. So I'm going to get rid of those circles because I don't need them as part of the design. I'll make this green because that's the cardstock I'm going to use. I'm going to make the name using that pink card again, and again I'm going to arrange it to the front just so I can see what the overall effect will be. So there we go, we've got a name that's all joined up ready to cut, but we know that there's going to be a piece that we need to make sure we don't lose. I have a slice result here, and so all I need to do now is make sure that it is all the right size. So I'm going to select all by using this button at the top, or I could click and drag over each of the layers. And I would like my design to be about 6 centimeters from top to bottom, so 6 centimeters in height. So I'm going to go up to size and type in 6 and hit enter. So everything stays in proportion, but this is come down. Then I need to go to make it, top right corner. So this is cardstock, so I'm going to cut it on the mat and click confirm. So I have my red or pink layer and I have my green layer here. Nothing I need to do with those two things, so I'll click continue. Once the machine is connected, we need to choose what material we are cutting. So at the moment we're on the pink layer, so I'm going to cut glitter cardstock setting, and then I need to make sure my fine point blade is in, and then I can load my material. So I'll take you to my machine to do that now. I'm going to apply this holographic card on first, and then use the brayer to make sure it's well applied. Then I'm going to slide that under the clips and press load. Once the machine has done its checks, we then press go. Once it's done, we press the unload button. And again, carefully remove your cardstock by turning your mat over to remove. For the green cardstock, I am going to choose medium cardstock, and again we load it into the machine ready to cut. Once your cardstock is applied to the mat, again slide it under and load into your machine. All we need to do now is adhere our name to the background. So again, I'm just using Pritt Stick. You have definitely got many more glue options. I'm just using what I've got in my studio. A little bit of excess there that I don't want. And then apply your ribbon. So again, I'm folding my ribbon in half. I'm going to go through from the front. This hole could have been much smaller. And pull. And there you go. 2 simple, effective and gorgeous gift tags ready to gift. I can't wait to see what designs you come up with.